Hello and welcome back to Up the Villa opposition preview time. Bournemouth v Villa, huge game. I'm joined by Sam from Back of the Net again, one of my favourite channels. How you doing, mate?
Thanks so much, mate. Yeah, nice to be on here. And yeah, you're right. Huge game this weekend. So looking forward to it.
I mean, last time I spoke to you was, fairly early on in the season. I think it was around October time. And I remember at that time, you'd sort of got a little like a spring in your step that, there was a possibility of Europe. And here we are, 3 games to go. And there's a massive opportunity for you. We play you again off the back of you beating Arsenal. Did you know that last time you played Villa, you'd beat Arsenal the game before, and now you're doing it again? So
Wow.
I don't know how football works like that, but it's weird.
Yeah, it's a big game for us, and yeah, we're a side that's a fairly streaky team. I think we've had some brilliant moments this season, and we've had some record breaking runs. But we've also had, before say 4 or 5 games ago, quite a bad run for us where we were having these European conversations, but then we were thinking our passport needs to go back into our pocket somewhat, and probably not come out again this season. But they've managed to put a big result the weekend out of the bag. We've had some steadying of the ship, so to speak, and we're playing with that freedom again. So hopefully it bodes well for this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, as a neutral, I absolutely love Bournemouth. I love Iraola. I think he's brilliant. I've spoke to you before how much I like him, and your team's just got like flair players. It's got silky players at the back. It's got a direct nature about it. It's got a bit of everything. So, as a neutral, you've been one of the stories, really, along with, say, like Brentford, Brighton, and Fulham, that pack of the teams that you're actually sort of competing with at the minute. Like, they've been a breath of fresh air, really. So just talk to me as the season as a whole, then, from start to finish, how it's been, your expectations before it, and sort of like where you are now as a fan.
Yeah, I mean, this season's been brilliant for Bournemouth fans. I mean, last season was a record-breaking season for us in terms of getting our largest ever Premier League points tally. And this season, we've already beaten that again, and hopefully we'll beat our positional best as well. But it's been fun to watch. It's been bums off seat type of football. It's been really entertaining. One thing I can say about Iraola ball is that even when we lose, it's an entertaining game. And we know the team are, applying what he wants. But there has been a spell towards the sort of latter part of the campaign where we've really struggled. And I think one of the things that's contributing to that is that in January we were down to our bare bones and we were having to name academy players on the bench. And there was one game in particular against Newcastle where we only had 12 senior players. That one we went up there thinking we'd get nothing. We won 4-1. Absolutely bizarre. So, but what I think that spell in January and February did, it stretched the players that we did have. And whilst some players were slowly coming back, like Evan Nilsson came back and another number of other players came back from injury, I just think there was almost, from the rest of the players, maybe a collective sigh of relief that, oh, thank God we're getting players back now. But almost dropping the ball, so to speak, as well. These players were shattered and tired through playing 90 minutes week in, week out. And unfortunately, our form dipped as a result of that. But thankfully, Iraola's got the group together. And it's nice to go into a run at the end of the season where we've got no hope because, we're a team that by this point, there would be no chance of Europe. And usually we'd be just trying to think of how high we can come. But now we've got something to play for. And in a weird sort of way, whilst at the start of the season, we looked at these matches at the end of the season, like playing Arsenal, playing Villa, playing Manchester City, we were thinking, that's a terrible run-in. Ironically, now we're looking at it thinking, actually, these are teams that like to play football. And those are the teams that, on the whole, we do well against rather than your sort of low block side. So I think it's going to be very interesting. I know that fans have been working out results for other clubs and doing these kind of Premier League fixture calculators, working out the league table. I had us down in 8th. So whether that means Europe or not, I think it depends on whether Crystal Palace beat Man City. I hope they don't in the FA Cup final. But having something to play for is really nice. So I've certainly got that buzz back.
Yeah, so we'll touch on Europe then. I'm with you. I think City have got to win the FA Cup for Conference to drop to sort of 8th place. Is that where you're sort of looking at now? What are you sort of putting your sort of vision on? What teams and what sort of permutations, and what are you sort of wanting to get?
Yeah, I think eighth place. I mean, that's where we are now with 3 games to go. I've looked at the other teams. I think it is between. It is out of 4 teams. It's us. It's Brentford. It's Brighton. It's Fulham. Crystal Palace have dropped out of that equation, but of course, all they need is one match to win to get to Europe in the FA Cup final. So, look, we're in a position where we've got 2 home games. We would take that. One of them harder than the other, and away at Manchester City, only a couple of days after they play the FA Cup final. So that'll be interesting because if they win it, we're hoping they're going to be all out on the beers on the Sunday, and maybe a bit too relaxed to even worry about facing Bournemouth a few days later. I think their Champions League place is as good as confirmed. I mean, I know they still need to win a few games to make that certain, but I think they'll be all right. But I think eighth place is the one for us, and it seems mad saying that I'd be disappointed if I didn't get eighth because we know what we are. We're little old Bournemouth, and we aren't usually in these kind of conversations. But the facts are on the table. You said at the start of the show we've got some really good players, a really entertaining brand of football, some young stars of the future that will probably leave the club. We've got to be realistic, but the team have got a synergy at the moment that's producing these incredible memories for us. I mean, this season alone has produced memory after memory, which is great. But I want those memories to lead to something, and I'm really hoping it is eighth place because it would be fantastic for a team like us to be getting Conference League football. It would be amazing. So yeah, that's our aim, I think.
Yeah, I'd love to see you there. When we was going for Champions League last year, we had to rely on Man City to beat Spurs, and you think that they're the perfect team to rely on, but oh my God, I've never seen Man City get battered for a little bit of a spell and think they were going to. So what I will say is that game, that FA Cup game, is probably going to be stressful for you guys.
100%.
It won't work out like Man City rock up and they're like prime tick-attacker where they normally are. They'll probably put you through it, but I think they'll do it. I think they'll win, and I think City, even though they're probably having a bad season from their standards, like Champions League and an FA Cup win, it's not a bad season, is it really? So
no, that's right, and they could come second as well, to be honest. So you never know.
Yeah, I mean, if they get second and beat Arsenal to second, then that's wild in itself. But just going back to your manager, then, so talk to me about him a little bit, because I know what it means for our manager and how he's transformed our club and how good he is, and every Villa fan loves Emery, and I imagine every Bournemouth fan loves Iraola. So, what are your thoughts for him? And sort of, I don't know the history around Bournemouth really, but he's got to be one of the best managers you've ever had, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were lucky to have Eddie Howe. We're lucky to have Iraola. I think Eddie Howe probably couldn't do what Iraola's doing now. I don't think Iraola could have done what Eddie Howe did for us in terms of bringing us up from League Two, but we're lucky to have had them both. We had a few managers in between: Scott Parker, Gary O'Neill, and then just sort of Jonathan Woodgate for a few months as interim. But yeah, with Iraola, wow, we've got a man who just likes to play entertaining football. He knows how he wants his team to play. It's a little bit reckless, rock and roll as he puts it, but front foot stuff, winning the ball back in the final third and trying to get a shot on goal, picking your moments. And he's transformed the team to believe in themselves. I mean, we've got, during our injury crisis, we lost our right back. We didn't have a right back at the club. So Lewis Cook, who's always been a centre midfielder, like playing in that double pivot, he made him right back, and he took to it like a duck to water. And he at one point, Bournemouth fans were suggesting, actually, even when fit, he could be our best right back of the club. It's like, wow, how's this happened? Also, when Evan Nilsson was out, Dango Ouattara, who's filled in at left back before, he's our winger. Ironically, his CV says he plays on the wing, but it's probably his worst position because he's done great for us left back when he's had to fill there, but also up front as well, scoring a hat-trick against Nottingham Forest. I think maybe in that position he just sort of had the freedom to realise, look, I'm just being a stopgap here. I've got my freedom to do whatever I want. Whereas when he plays in the position he has to play, he maybe overthinks it. But he's made players much better individually. Justin Cliver is usually always been a winger. Most of his career, he got moved into the number 10. He's been fantastic for us. Ryan Christie, again, on the flanks, has sometimes put me in that number 10 position too. Unfortunately, we haven't got him now because he's injured. But I think all of the team believe it. And I think the belief is like the proof is in the pudding in terms of we've been getting results and we've been getting some really big results. And that's one of the things when we did our first show when Scott Parker was sacked, we did a live stream on YouTube, and we didn't know who was coming in, but within the hour of him being sacked, there were rumours of like Iraola coming in, and literally on the same show, we were like, "He's our manager." And then we were on Wikipedia looking him up, and one of the things he did at previous clubs was he always got some big results against the big teams. So he was at Vallecano, and you managed to get results against Barcelona, like Real Madrid, some really big wins. And one of the things that also we noticed at the time was how his teams tend to drop off in the second half of the season. And that's what we've seen this season because of the intensity. And I think when you got an injury crisis to compound that as well, it meant that we had the dip that we had. But I think the players seem to be re-energized now. And Iraola is honestly getting the best out of the team, and he's our main asset. We know that there are players that are probably going to go right, but as long as we got Iraola, we know that he can take a player and mold him into what he wants. So he's our key asset at the moment. But fans absolutely love him.
Yeah, I think neutrals love him as well, to be honest,
Yeah.
mate, because I hold him in such a high regard. So, sort of like player of the season, then who's been the player? Who's the one where I guess if he's not available, then you start to worry a little bit. So, who's been your best player?
So difficult. I mean, you probably have the same, sort of issues with trying to narrow it down to one. I mean, we have to submit something to like the BBC Sport fans thing by the end of the day today, actually putting 4 names forward for our player of the season vote. And we are struggling because there have been so many good players, but I think there is a standout player, and that's a player that's unfashionable, goes under the radar. John McGinn's teammate, for Scotland, Ryan Christie. He's been brilliant for us. He's just got so much energy. He's popped up with a couple of goals this season as well, which is something that he's never really done before. It's his work rate and, box to box movement we absolutely love. And he just puts in 110%. We've lost that somewhat now that he's injured, because he had an operation which he was playing through pain, and the club at one point decided, look, there's a trigger point here, we're going to have to operate at some point, and they chose it with about 8 games to go, which Bournemouth fans were a bit worried about, and rightly so, because our results after that weren't good. But players like Justin Clive are hoping to are trying to fill that gap, and have an Alex Scott as well, who's another great player, young, hasn't really shown his full potential at the club yet. He's another that's filled his shoes quite well, I would say. But Ryan Christie, I think, is probably our standout this season for sure.
Cool. And the new stadium, how far away are you from sort of knocking something down and building something? Like, is it close, or is it a few years away?
Like Villa fans, and Premier League fans, I mean, we're the butt of everyone's joke, and we have been since we've been in the Premier League. Understandably, right? Things are happening. Unbelievably, things are happening. We did a video a couple of weeks ago. It all sort of pivoted around where the players have been training, and there's a training complex. If you've been to the Vitality Stadium, there's a training complex right next to the stadium where the players have been. Very small one, but Premier League standard, had some facilities, and that's where the players have been. 6 miles down the road, there's a brand new complex that's now just opened. The players are over there. They're hoping to bring all the academies and, like the women's side under one roof and get Category 1 status. There's an indoor dome. There's about 11 pitches, goalkeeper training areas, everything. And it looks amazing. I visited it myself. We're going to put a vlog out soon about it, but it is unreal. That then clears the space that will be needed for some redevelopment for the stadium. So at the moment, we're at 11,500 seats. I think it's going to be done in a modular fashion. So we'll have a big 7,500 stand behind one of the ends, and then we're going to build up from the main stand as well. So it's going to be an iterative process to 16,000 to 20,000 to 23,000. And at that point, who knows whether we can go much further? But I think it's best to do it in smaller steps, because we don't want to run before we can walk. So yeah, things are happening with regards to that, and I for one am well pleased about that, because we've got a waiting list of fans that can't see their team play, which is such a shame. I mean, I see sometimes they play development games at the stadium, women's teams matches there too, and you see faces that you never see on a match day, because I mean, they can't see their team play, so that's the nearest they can get to watching Bournemouth. So how good would it to be, to get them in watching a Premier League team? So that's what we're all hoping for. So yeah, the timeline, I think some development will be starting within about a year or so, and then hopefully be ready within 3 3 years after that. So maybe we're looking at sort of 2028, 2029, something like that.
Yeah, brilliant. And I know you've got really ambitious owners as well. So sort of what's the vision then going into sort of next season? Obviously, you hopefully you're going to finish eighth, and you're going to want to build on that. So, I see a lot of rumours of Kirkes, etc. So, where do you think you'll be going into next season, and what's the ambition going to be?
Apparently, our owner suggests it's going to be a big summer. I think he's hinting at players leaving. I think Kirkes will go. He'll go to Liverpool. Howson will go. He'll go to, well, he wants to stay in the Premier League, so he says, but even Real Madrid have been looking at him. Murmurings of Semenyo to Newcastle. So, there are some big names to fill, but our owners are ambitious, like you say. And the recruitment has been so good for us at the moment. We understand that being the club our size, players aren't joining Bournemouth to stay forever, because that doesn't happen. We know that we're a stepping stone club, but we're ideally placed for players like that who can be brilliant for us. We can get the best out of them, and then they can go, and then we can make money on them. But that puts pressure on the recruitment department. It puts pressure on Iraola to mould the players into what we need. So it's going to be a busy summer. I think if we go into eighth and get Europe, brilliant. I understand, and I'm realistic to know that means that we'll probably not replicate that league form the following season. It won't happen. It will be a lower mid-table finish, which is fine. I would take that, for Europe. But yeah, I think we're going to not have as many assets as we've got. We're going to have Iraola, I'm sure, and we'll have some new faces as well, which fans will be getting excited about, and hopefully they can hit the ground running. So I think it's going to be a club that's in constant transition season to season, and that's ultimately what we're going to be, because we're going to bring on and develop these young stars, and then they're going to go. So that's a hell of a job for Iraola. But as long as we've got him, I'm cool with it. I'm cool because he's brilliant, man.
Yeah, brilliant. So thoughts on Villa this season? What have you made of Villa as a whole? When I first spoke to you this season, I think we were in the middle of a Champions League campaign. So what are your thoughts on Villa?
Firstly, Villa's Champions League campaign I thought was absolutely brilliant. I mean, I saw some of the games. Oh my God, Villa Park must have been a joy to have been to on those Champions League nights. It looked amazing, all the kind of tifo stuff, and just the fact, like the noise that could come across like audibly on the TV, just looked incredible. I think the league form has maybe suffered as a result of that slightly, but to be in with a shout of Champions League. I mean, I know you're seventh in the league at the moment, and you're within touching distance of some of the other sides, and you know what, every match is big for you this season. But I sort of having a Basque manager, I think similar sort of style of football in some ways like to what we play. I mean, he's got the team playing. You've got such excitement. You've got really fast wingers. You've got a striker that's scoring goals. You've got this really nice balance throughout the side that I just really like. The one thing that maybe is not been so good. I mean, your home and your away form is kind of vastly different. I know that in the home form league table, you're fourth, I think, and in the away, you're 11th, and that's maybe giving us a little bit of hope. So that's where I think maybe the inconsistency on the road has hindered you a little bit, perhaps.
Yeah. I mean, you are right. The away form's been not so great, but the home form has been a bit of some of the games. Like Villa fans look back at the game we played against you, and we conceded that last minute Evan Nilsson goal. If we didn't concede that, etc., or we dropped points to Ipswich. So those are some of the games where we've faltered really when we're in winning positions, etc. So it is a big game for Villa. It's a must win for Villa. This is, we've got to win every game now. We've got to win 3 games in a row and hope the other teams drop points. So what do you think Villa can expect from Bournemouth then? How do you feel like the game's going to play out?
This is going to be interesting because, I mean, the fact that you're saying it's a must-win game sort of gives me more hope. If it wasn't for you, I would be more nervous. That, I think, almost stands us in good stead in some ways. I think it's going to be a belter of a game, and no wonder it's live on the TV because it's going to be superb. 2, football teams that are going to be going hammer and tong to win a game of football. Both teams need to win, really. A draw doesn't really suit either of us, really. I think it's going to be so interesting. It's going to be fast paced. It's going to be energetic. It's going to be a good atmosphere, hopefully, at Vitality Stadium, because we need to get behind the boys, knowing that if we drop points and then we drop points in the next game at Manchester City, where we've never taken so much as a point in all our lives, then that's our Europe, campaign over. So we've got 2 home games, yourself and Leicester. We've got to be looking at Leicester, of course, for 3 points, but that alone won't be enough. I've been looking at the other teams in and around us, and they've probably, a couple of them have got easier run-ins, and I see them picking up points where maybe we don't. That's why this Saturday is absolutely crucial for us. But it's going to be it's going to be an interesting game, and I just think it's going to be entertaining as well. Fast-paced, and I just hope that we can kind of withstand your strengths, because you've got some excellent attackers, and we've got to be right on it. So you know what? I don't know how it's going to pan out. I think from a Bournemouth perspective, this is glass half full, and maybe a little bit biased, obviously, because I'm wearing a red shirt, but maybe home advantage could be the key for us. Maybe it will be. So that's the only thing I'm, going on. Because if you put these 2 teams playing on a neutral venue, as strong as they can be, I always think it'll be a close game. Villa will probably just shade it, but if it's going to be played at our place, which it is, I've got a feeling we can do something. But it's not going to be one of those games where one team romps away with it. It's going to be one by a goal.
Yeah, you're making me really nervous.
Sorry.
Yeah, I feel a bit nervous now. So we're going to go, and I'll speak to you next season. And I do hope you finish 8th, because you have been a joy to watch this season. And I know a lot of Villa fans really respect Bournemouth as well. So thanks for coming on, mate.
No worries at all. Really enjoy it. And look, Villa fans, you're always a pleasure. You're always brilliant when you come down here. You're always loud when we go to your place. So I really hope you get what you need from this season as well. So yeah, fingers crossed for you.